So today's question is, what are the various factors that affect the formation of savanna type climate? And we need to examine the various threats to that savanna biomes. So this question is on the savanna climate. First, look at this map. This regions you see here, these are the regions under the savanna biomes. So you can see here, this is the African region, this is the South America, then this is part of Indian region, and this part of Australian region. So these are coming under the savanna biomes. Some locations of savanna include Africa, Central America, South America, and Southern Asia. In the Southern Asia, we can see here. So what are the savanna regions and how the climate being impacted? We'll study now. Savanna regions have two distinct seasons. First, one wet season and a dry season, and there is a very little rain in the dry season. In the wet season, vegetation grows includes lush green grasses and wooded area. And as you move further away from the equator and its heavy rainfall, the grasslands becomes drier and drier, particularly in the dry season. This is the equator. So when you move away from the equator, then what will happen? The seasons means you are going apart away from the rainfall regions, and then the savannas will come where biomes will become drier and drier. So accordingly, we have two seasons, wet and dry. Now, savanna biomes. Savannas, also known as tropical grassland. Remember, sometimes we use this term also, savannas as tropical grasslands. And they are found in the north and south of the tropical rainforest biomes. The largest expanses of savanna are in Africa, where mass of the central part of the continent, for example, Kenya, Tanzania, they consist of tropical grassland. Savanna grassland can also be found in Brazil, in South America. As we have already seen that in the South Africa, in the South America, Central America, and Southern Asia regions, we can see the savanna biomes. Now, what are the effects? What are the factors that affect the formation of savanna type of climate? So savanna type of climates will be affected by these regions, these factors. Savanna type of climate is located between 5 to 20 degree latitude on either side of the equator, either northern or southern. You know the equator, 0 degree. So above 5 to 20 degree, we can see this or you can experience this savanna type of climate. Both sides, north and south. The savanna climate is located between the equatorial type of climate and semi-arid and subtropical humid climate. In other words, this climate is located between equatorial low pressure belt or rain producing intertropical convergence and subtropical high pressure belt. Okay, then the regions of the savanna climate are affected by low and high pressure system in a year, and due to the northward migration of the sun. Ketia hoy northward side migration of sun? We know that the northward migration of sun happens in the summer solstice, that is 21st June. The equator, sorry, low pressure belt and the doldrum are shifted northward, and the savanna climate comes under the influence of intertropical convergence that is associated with atmospheric disturbances and which yields rains. So during the summer solstice time, the northward migrations happens. So because of that, this savanna climate comes under the influence of intertropical convergence, and that associated with atmospheric disturbance and rains. Again, due to the southward migration of sun during winter solstice, that is 23rd December, savanna climatic zone comes under the influence of subtropical high pressure belt, and thus anticyclonic conditions dominate the weather and bring dry conditions. So in the case of summer solstice, we are getting of rains, and in the case of southward migration, that is during this December month, it is experiencing dry conditions. The descending stable winds under the anticyclonic conditions cause dry conditions because the coastal, again, we know that the coastal areas are affected by what? Local winds, sea breezes. So eastern coasts are influenced by trade winds. Strong and high velocity tropical cyclones dominate the weather conditions during the warm seasons. It is apparent that savanna type of climate is induced due to the introduction of wet summer and dry winter seasons because of the northward and southward migration of sun respectively. Since the savanna climate is located between the equatorial wet and tropical dry climate, hence there is a gradual variation in weather conditions away from the equator as the aridity increases poleward. Now, what are the threats of savanna biomes? First is the anthropogenic activities. We are the responsible ones. Unsustainable water uses and irrigation methods could potentially dry up the life-giving rivers and water holes. Again, in some regions where indigenous peoples means take bush meat or wild meat in their diet, then it actually implying ungulate population have dropped at noticeable rate. So these animal species populations are dropping in such regions where the indigenous peoples are taking them as meat, taking the meat of those animals. Then some savanna wildlife is also hunted as trophies, like black rhinoceros for its valuable horn. Then some plant species are over harvested due to their commercial value. Some plant species are there which are very valuable, so they were over harvested. Then carvings made from African blackwood. African blackwood, again a savanna tree, often sold at tourist markets. Now, agriculture, drought, and heavy grazing. Agriculture, another environmental threat to the savanna. Large areas of land are being cleared to grow crops and farm livestock, and the livestock competes with the local animals for grazing and can decimate the natural ecosystem of savanna climate. So, because of the agriculture and in parallel the large livestock grazing actually decimating the natural ecosystem. Then prolonged and severe drought has a dangerous effect on a savanna ecosystem, with grazing patterns exacerbating this effect. Drought is happening there, right? Then the combination of severe drought and grazing, overgrazing, we have to use the word overgrazing, can change a grassland of primarily edible perennial grasses to a savanna dominated by inedible grasses and plants. So this way, savannas means biome is now turned into something what we cannot call as the one with good or kind of edible grasses, because savanna climate is most popularly known for its the grasses. So now because of this severe drought and grazing, that grasses turn into only inedible ones and inedible plants. Then desertifications. Tropical savannas often border on arid desert regions, and the spread of desert-like conditions into dry grassland areas is called desertification, and that is happening there. The threats to a savanna ecosystem includes effect caused by climate change, farming practices, overgrazing, aggressive and agricultural irrigations that lowers the level of water table away from the plant roots, deforestation, and then erosion. So they are part of some kind of virtuous cycle, because if large scale irrigation happens, overgrazing happens, then that will turn into what? Water table, the downward movement of the water table, and that will turn to the deforestation, and then that will turn into erosion. Then again, each year over 46,000 kilometers square African savanna becomes desert because of these reasons. Then carbon emissions, a 2012 survey attributed large increase in woody plant mass to the carbon dioxide fertilization effect. And the authors posited that the increase in the rate of woody plant growth was caused by increasing atmospheric carbon dioxide. The dramatic increase in the amount of trees and shrubs could threaten the entire savanna ecosystem, as these plants use more water than grasses, So because of the carbon dioxide fertilization effect, carbon dioxide fertilization effect means what? More respiration is going on, and more carbon dioxide, atmospheric carbon dioxide is there increasing. And because of the overgrowth of this woody plant, and that in turn, what? Chucking the nutrients of the land on there, that in turn, what? The plant's growth stops. That is the most creative features of the, or you can say most unique features of the savanna ecosystem is generally being threatened because of this overgrowth of woody plant. I can show you one figure for this. Look at here. This is what so-called carbon dioxide fertilization. Increase in photosynthesis happening, and deposition, increasing and nutrient availability plus. And because of this, what happens? Respiration, increasing respiration, reduced plant productivity, longer growing season, reforestation evaporation. Just you remember that carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere increasing, and this actually implying the growth of, or you can say overgrowth of this woody plant, and therefore they are actually taking more nutrients from the land, and that's in turn implying the savanna, you can say degradation of the savanna grasses in such savanna biomes. That is the carbon dioxide fertilization. Okay. Now, how we can conclude is that while forests are undoubtedly great carbon sinks, grasslands are not all that far behind. Studies reveal that restoring grassland is an immensely effective and economical way to combat climate change, as this landscape store large amounts of carbon below ground. Okay, remember below ground. Plant above the ground, but this grasses below the ground, storing large amount of carbon below ground. So when a nuanced and informed understanding of the importance of grasslands filters into conservation and climate change policies, it will be a win-win for pastoralists, and then grassland diversity and in the planet. So if we remember that this is the means, what we can remember, if we understand actually the importance of grassland in storing a large amount of carbon below the ground, then what would happen, that we will try to focus on the grassland conservation. When grassland conservation will be done in a very proactive way, then through some climate change policies, then that will be a win-in for pastoralists and grassland biodiversity and the planets. So this savanna climate and related factors and the challenges what we have discussed today is a very important, I think, as part of our geography. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.